So let's look into this particular SQL question, movie rating. So this is one of the most common asked SQL questions, in the interview. So we have three tables here: movies, we have users, and we have movie rating, right? So, this movies table contains movie ID as well as movie name, which is title. The user table contains user ID as well as the name of the user, and movies rating contains movie ID, user ID, ratings, and created at, right? And yeah, this table contains the rating of a movie by the user in their review, right? And this created at is the user's reviews date. So we have to write down a SQL query to find out the number of users who has rated the greatest number of movies, right? And in case of tie, return the lexicographically smaller username. And second thing is that we have to find out the movie name with the highest average rating in Feb 2020. In case of tie, return a lexicographically smaller movie name, right? So if you could see, we have to find out two different things here. So in first case, we have to find out the number of user, and in second case, we have to find out the name of the movie, right? So we have to find out two different things. So first, we will have to calculate this, and then we will have to calculate second part, and then we will have to do a union on both, right? So let's look at the sample record. We have movies table, user table, and movies rating. If you just have a look at this question once again, we have to find out the name of the user who has rated the greatest number of movies, right? Which means we have to find out those user, that particular user who has rated the highest number of movies, right? So if you just look at this movie rating table, right, so what we can find, so let's just look at this user ID one, right? So if I just, so this is my user ID one. So how many movies how many movie ID he has rated for? So he has rated for movie ID one, right? And he has rated for movie ID two, right? And then he has rated for movie ID three, right? So let's just write it as one, two, three. So total three movies he has rated, right? Now let's talk about this user ID 2. So how many movies that he has rated for? This one, and this one, right? So he has also rated three movies. So if you could see, both the user ID has rated three movies, right? So if you see this question again, so in case of a tie, return the lexicographically smaller username, right? So this, so now let's talk about this user ID 3. So user ID 3 has rated one movie, and he has rated one movie. So total two movies, right? And about this user ID 4, he has rated only one, right? So we have a tie, right? So highest number of movies that have been rated was for movie was by movie, sorry, user ID 1 and user ID 2. So let's ignore this part, and now we have to find out the smaller user name, right? So if you just have a look at user ID 1, what's the name of user ID 1? Daniel. And second one is Monica. So if you just do an order by name with ascending order, so you will get Daniel, right? So what would be my output? Daniel, right? And so if you see, the result is Daniel. And second thing is that the second question is that we have to find the movie name with highest average rating. So in the same way, we will have to proceed with the second question also. So let's work first on first question. So what we have to do is select. So we just have to find out the name of user and the greatest number of movies, right? So let's just select user ID name from users so let's take this as an alias u, right, to join with, right. Now what we have to find out is we have to populate a rating as well, right. So if you just run this, right, so what you will get, so you will get the user id, name and rating, right. But what we have to find out is we have to find out the greatest number of movies, right. So basically we have to find out the count of this particular ratings group by user id, right. So then we will be able to find out that how many movies that a particular user has rated for, right. Just do a count of rating and then group by u dot user id, right. Let's run this. Now let's copy this particular thing, the output that we are getting as of now. So we have got this user ID, Daniel, Monica, Maria, and this, right? So what we have to find out is we have to find out the highest number of rated movies, right? So what we have to do here is order by, then count of rating descending. So let's run this once again. Okay, so we will get the rating in descending order, right? And what is the second thing is that in case of tie, return the smaller username. So what we have to do is username ascending, right? Now let's run this. And we have to just find out the highest number of movies, right? So just put a limit one, right? To run this code. So you got this Daniel, right, who has rated higher number of movies. So we have a tie as well, but since this is a smaller username Daniel, that's the reason why we are getting Daniel, right. So now this part is done. And so what result we will have to find out. So the output is just as this result, right. So just select user, sorry, name as results from this, put this whole in braces. You see, run this code. So it will, so you have got the result, right. One result you have got Daniel, right. And now let's try find out the second thing, right. What is the second thing? We have to find out the movie name with the highest average rating in Feb. So first, we need to apply a filter on Feb 2020. And the same thing, the logic that we have applied for calculating the highest rated movies, we have to do the same thing with this, right. So what we will do is just select. Uh, so here we will need this movie table, because we have to join both this table, movie and movies, and movies rating on movie ID. Why? Because we have to find the movie name with highest average rating. So we will have to use a group by on movie ID this time, right? So let's write movie ID, then title, then let's m dot movie ID, then from movies m, then we have to join with rating, right, on m dot movie id is equal to mr dot movie id, right? And what's the next thing here? So we'll have to find out the sum of rating, right? Not the sum of, we have to find out the average of rating. So just make it as average, right? And what's the next thing? We have to apply a filter on created date, right? In this case, I'm just using a like operator in order to filter out web 2020, right? And here we have to use a group by on movie id, right? This is done. And what's the next thing? We have to find out the highest average rating, right? Let's do an order by on average rating descending, right? In case of tie, return the lexicographically smaller movie name, right? So title ascending, right? Then since we have to find out the highest average rating, that's why we are just putting out the limit to 1. Let's put this in parenthesis and select, and what we have to select here is title, right? Title as results, right? So let's skip this part. Just try to run this query to see we are getting an exact result or not. So yes, we have got some syntax error here. So let's try to find out. Select title. What's like? Where is, so this is like operator. Every derived table must have its own alias. Average. Okay, so we haven't put an alias here. Unknown column created date, created at. Okay, so it is created at, right? Now we have got this frozen 2. So is this matching? Yes, this is matching. Now what you can do is just paste it and then just use union, right? And when you run this, you will get the output. So you understand, right, that how we are going to solve this particular question. So in case of any doubt, please let me know.